psychology. There we go. Psychology of that because
Can you spell that?
Yeah, right here.
Can we have a definition?
It's brain stuff.
Can we use it in a sentence?
The psychology of security. I don't know. That's half a sentence.
Welcome to Access Granted, a peek inside the real-life stories of physical security professionals. Now, here are your hosts, Justin, John, Ryan, Dalton, and Brandon.
Welcome back to another episode of Access Granted. Today we're going to be talking about the psychology of security and why people make dumb decisions. I'm not a doctor. I just play one when I take Dalton to the back room.
So I concur.
So, it's time to tickle the fancy of all you Freudian freaks out there and give you an explanation of why psychology can be utilized to improve our understanding and responses to the various security challenges posed by the contemporary environment. Those are some big words. Let's get into it.
I think Brandon had that typed out. I mean, that was good.
It was almost like I'm reading it off a paper. I really researched this.
So what session were you discussing this when you were there?
Dalton, do you remember? What? Last week when we were playing Doctor, do you remember when we were those notes?
Oh, no. I was just, pointing to the doll.
Oh, okay. All right. So security is basically a feeling and a reality. You can feel secure versus actually being secure. And what makes us safe versus what we do to be safe. People feel unsecure when they don't have like an action plan. We've all kind of sat around, especially the ones with children and everything, even with a fire in your house, you have to have an action plan of if there's a fire, what do we do? If there's a break-in, what do we do? Just having that plan makes us feel better, but it doesn't actually really keep us physically secure. So to keep yourself physically secure, having a weapon or like an escape room even, somewhere to either defend yourself or completely get away into a secure area.
I think with the psychology of this, I mean, I do think there's a lot of people out there. It kind of touches on what we talked about last time with Defiant and TrueBolt. They feel secure in that lock that they put on there that only costs them $5, but it's a psychological feeling. It's not an actual security. And I think the difference is when we come in as security professionals, we have to marry that. Find a happy medium between what makes the customer feel safe and what is actually safe and secure. And I think we come about it in a lot of different ways. We can come at it electronically and physically with the locks hardware.
Well, even like just having a safe, it keeps your mind at ease that your most precious possessions are safe. So psychologically, money plays a factor into that. You want a safe to keep all your stuff safe. So why do people...
That's a lot of safe.
That's a lot of safe words. So why do people...
What is your safe word, Brandon?
Dalton, what is it?
Apple pie.
Damn it. He remembered. All right. All right. So, but when you're buying a safe, why do people instinctively want to buy the cheapest safe they can?
Well, they want to buy the cheapest one, or they go all the way to the top.
Yes.
TL30. So I don't need a TL30 in my house.
So it's a psychological thing of, yes, you feel secure because you bought a safe, but most of those safes that people are buying are fireproof lock boxes. I can just pick it up and take a crowbar and open it. So therefore,
flathead,
so therefore your stuff's not actually secure. It just makes you feel secure compared to buying a 7-point locking gun safe that weighs 800 pounds. You're a little more safe with that.
But once again, it's, not only does it talk about the psychology of it, it's, we have to go back to what are we trying to protect? If you're protecting documents, do you need that 7-point gun safe? But if you're protecting, in some cases with some of the gun collections that we've seen running around, $50,000, $100,000.
Guns don't have legs, John.
They shoot by themselves. If when you're talking about a 50 or 100,000 or more, gun collection, then that bottom of the rung safe is not going to work for you, even though it may make you feel secure.
Well, yeah, and even outside of safes, we've done some things to make people feel secure that I would never do on my own house. We had a lady, and we aren't going to name names or cities they lived in. She put deadbolts on every door of her house, and each side of those deadbolts were keyed differently because later on we found out she had some mental illness, but in the end, sometimes crazy pays the bills. And she, to make herself feel safe, she carried her ring of keys like a jailer. And we have to balance that amount of stuff to the guy who doesn't even lock his doors. So psychology plays a role here. And when it comes to purchasing security for your house, the ultimate guide isn't what we would do or what we recommend. It's what makes you feel safe. You know, if you don't have a problem, I'm always going to recommend a deadbolt on your door. But if you feel safe with that knob, then by all means put it on your house, because I'm not living there. And
right, and we don't want to be running around, trying to scare people into buying security or anything else. It's not how we work. But at the same time, you do have to take in how you feel when it comes to having security.
But we've made a lot of money, and we're a business over the years because somebody didn't feel safe afterwards, regardless of what we did do. So we came in and we rekeyed, we drilled and installed deadbolts, we put cameras in a house. So psychology plays a huge role in the mentality of the customer of what we're going to do at your house.
So it's almost like, I guess you could say, like it's psychology versus price point. Everybody wants to feel something up to a certain dollar amount.
Right.
And then it starts to say, well, is that worth it? And then once you hit that top tier, kind of in their mind, a top tier amount, then they're starting to think, well, that's not worth it. But if this is cheaper, well, that's not as good, so that's not worth it. So then they don't, do anything because they've psyched themselves out of it's either too much or the cheaper one's not going to do anything for me.
Or you come in and they want double cylinder deadbolt on their front door, but they have a big picture plate glass window with no alarm system in their house, right? So it made them feel safe to put that double cylinder deadbolt on their house, but they didn't even take into effect the other security vulnerabilities. And we're like John said, we're not here to make you feel unsafe in your house. The goal is for us to make you feel as comfortable in your own environment, whether that be work environment or home environment, as possible. But your mentality of what makes you feel safe is definitely going to put us in the direction that we need to do to get there.
Right, and it's always a two-edged sword. Having security and having convenience doesn't always tie together either.
Sometimes the most secure is the least convenient. That lady had, like I said, she had each individual door was keyed differently on either side of the deadbolt. She carried a jailer's ring worth of keys to get in and out of her house. When she wanted to go to the bathroom, she shut the door and she locked it. She also, to be fair, thought someone was breaking into her house at night and remodeling. And I asked for that guy's number because nobody broke into my house and remodeled. But to make her feel safe, we were as serious as the job entailed to do what she wanted.
We've had several customers that we've known have had, issues mentally where, they were requesting things or, were always afraid someone was breaking in. They had paranoia. They had different, psychosis issues. And we tried to work with them, but also, not just take advantage of that either.
Well, no, yeah. And we've had some elderly individuals, too, where they've come in and, hey, we got to rekey the house again because someone lost the key. And then we start to notice, hey, the second time, this isn't no one lost the key, no one's getting in. This is a dementia thing. And I've actually pulled a caretaker or even a family member aside and said, hey, I can't keep coming out here. I'm just wasting your family member's money because she's not in her right mind because she thought someone kept breaking into her house because what was happening was she was forgetting she was doing things. And the second time I rekeyed her house in 2 weeks, her daughter was there. She's like, Mom, I can't believe you lost the keys again and everything else. And I said, this key right here on your ring is the key that we just keyed it to. And she had completely forgotten. And I said, I'm not going to charge you this time. I'm just going to say, you might want to keep a better eye on her. Just heads up. I don't think she's remembering what she's doing.
Right, and then we also had the time where we had a elderly gentleman who, older than me, before you guys bring it up.
Sure.
An elderly gentleman who was convinced someone was breaking and stealing his key. And we rekeyed it 2 times and said, try to talk to somebody. Well, lo and behold, one night the police caught his nephew actually breaking into the house, and his nephew had broke in and taken a key. And he had done that every single time we rekeyed the house.
Yeah, didn't you also make keys to a guy's car because he was in a memory care unit and you guys didn't realize it?
Yes.
And he kept losing his keys. They take him away. He thought he was losing his keys, but they
would
kept
take
taking them away.
And he would escape and then call us to make keys to his car.
So Dalton, like, what do you do to your house that your woman feels secure, but what do you do to make sure that she's actually secure?
Brutus. He has Brutus come over.
Really?
He takes her outside and says, "Anybody want? Anybody want?"
I think about that from time to time when she comes home from work. But
Sadly, though, it's what you get for living in a small town like Wheatland. There's not many takers. If you were down in the 30D, you'd be fine. There'd be plenty of people to come
there's
and
a
take.
chunk of people that just don't lock things out around there, and I can't understand that. I lock my house, deadbolt and knob every single time, even the screen door most of the time, if I'm going out of town for even 3 to 4 hours. So I'll have two doors completely
You can
locked.
tell how small town you are. A vacation is going out of town for 3 to 4 hours.
Well, no, that's not. Even when I lived on my mom's farm when I was growing up, we would have 3 doors sometimes locked on our house and every single one of our barns. We were out in the country, but one time we were robbed. So,
But the
we were
psychology
always
there for you guys was different because you were robbed.
Yes.
The other guy who doesn't ever lock his doors has never experienced that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and I don't want to experience that again with my own house in the middle of town where, yes, that's more than likely not going to happen. But I'd never like to be the first person to be the one that it happens to.
Well, even like my younger brother, he lives out in a small town as well, and another town that you don't lock your doors or anything in. And yeah, he actually had his car stolen from him out of his garage. And they left receipts and everything. It was almost damn paper trail. You could tell. Okay, they left a small town. They went to Walcott.
Another small town.
Yeah, another small town, but they have the I-80 truck stop there, so they went and they got McDonald's. So there's 3 different orders in there, so you can almost tell, all right, there's 3 people in this car. They left trash and everything, and then they just abandoned it out in the middle of nowhere. Point being said, even in the small town, there's going to be bags, maybe not from your town, but they are willing to drive to these small towns to steal your stuff.
Well, that too, and I think we posted a video on our Facebook of my camera is catching somebody attempting to steal my wife and I's vehicles, but we locked them. That same night, my neighbor's car was stolen, and they took the gun out of his other car, and they stole both of it. And it was because he didn't lock his doors, right? The keys to the car, he left. First off, the guy wasn't a very smart individual. He left. He's no longer my neighbor, so I can say this. He left his garage door open, and his keys were hanging in the garage. So that's a lack of attention to detail. And then B, the doors to the cars weren't locked. He could have, they didn't even have to leave the garage door open because the garage door openers were in the car.
But going back to that comes back to that convenience thing. You put your keys on a hook in the garage because it's convenient. You always know where they're at. And that has nothing to do with security.
And that goes against, convenience, against the psychology of things. Yeah, I feel like, I do this every day. Nothing's ever happened. So you get in your brain getting into this thing like, oh, yeah, nothing ever going to happen. And then it takes that one time.
Well, the psychology of this is the crazy thing is Davenport in the last few years have had a problem with car thefts. And in most of the car thefts is not because these individuals are sophisticated. They're just kids. It's convenience. Individuals don't lock their doors or leave the keys to the car somewhere that the kids can get to. Or they don't lock the door from the house to the garage. And if your house was built in 1980 and you still have, or before, and you still have the original garage door opener, those are fixed code transmitters. And people were, for a while there, they were just driving down the road, these kids, with a thing bought from Amazon and opening garage doors and taking cars. And psychology, they thought, oh, it's fine. It's an overhead door. But the psychology made them feel more safe than they were.
Well, and also, with these fancy new cars and fobs and everything, push to starts, we had one customer that she just, she has a bowl, right? When you walk in the door, she puts her keys right there. Well, unfortunately for her, that was the proximity was close enough that they could open the door and start that car, and they drove it down. They didn't get very far. Once it got out of range, it died, and they left it. But again, just having in the proximity in that area, you're able to start the car with. It will think it's close, thinks it's in the car with you, or it.
Yeah, we had a guy whose Harley was stolen because he had a proximity Harley, and he was eating at an outside, outside table at a cafe next to his bike. A guy hopped on it, started it, and drove it off while he was sitting there because it was within proximity of the Harley.
So I actually just recently bought a 2025 Chevy Trailblazer.
That's right, people. We pay them enough to buy a
I was
vehicle.
gonna say, yeah, we pay you pretty freaking well. I'd say.
Oh yeah, yes. I'm very happy with my pay. I'm not going to ever argue.
No
that.
more raises for Dalton.
No. Never mind. I take that back.
Retract.
So now you're a liar?
Yes. I'm happy. Never mind. I'm never going to win this. So anyways, it has a push button start, and like you were saying, the range on the older ones that can happen to.
Mm-hmm.
With my Trailblazer, I have a button on the door that I can press if the fob is within range that will unlock the door. There's nothing. I don't have to press anything on the fob.
Normally
But
that's 15.
there's-
You have to be within 15 centimeters of the door.
It's about 2 to 3 feet. Like there's one on the passenger side and there's one on the passenger side.
That's a hell of a difference. 15 centimeters or 2 to 3
whatever.
feet.
Okay.
Dalton also
I
lies
don't
about
know
other
the
things.
metric system.
He's told
I'm not
Autumn
gonna
things
lie.
were
This is
Either
6
way.
inches.
Well, okay.
Oh, now I get your math. Now I see how.
Again, this is psychology.
I'm American. I don't care about the metric system. Anyways, about 2 to 3 feet. Even there's a button on the passenger side that works the exact same way. That button on the passenger side will not work if the key is on the driver's side,
yep.
and vice versa. So they've made that a lot better. So that's not as bad as, say, your older garage doors, but it's the same kind of evolution as that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think the big thing to come through here is we're gonna give you the product that we recommend regardless, but we're also gonna tailor that product towards what you're requesting and what makes you feel safe.
Did you just say we're going to give them what we want to give them?
No.
Without
No. We're gonna
they
give you a
say?
suggestion about what we'll do. Is what I was trying to say. I apologize. We'll give you a suggestion what we would do, but in the end, it's ultimately how you feel and what you want.
take the product that alpha.
There are guys out there. There's other locksmith companies. There's one guy out in Arizona who only sells medical product. He doesn't rekey houses unless it's a Medico. And he only puts Medico on houses or businesses. It's because he goes, I won't stand behind anything else. And that's fine to him. But in the end, I've got 15 people that we have to make sure get a paycheck every week. So we will tailor the job to what makes the customers feel secure. But what we're trying to do here is make sure the customer's aware. That feeling may not be the thing that's actually going to protect you. That feeling is just a feeling.
Right, and it's like we said earlier. It's different if you've never been broken into or experienced, the robbery or anything else. Then your feeling of security is going to be different than someone who's actually experienced a break-in, who's experienced a mugging, who's experienced, other types of crime, and that is going to affect how you look at different products and how you look at your own security from that point on. Dalton says they had been robbed before. Well, now they're locking their doors in the middle of the country where people still to this day do not lock their doors. Okay? Whereas when we live in the city, we know that we need to lock our doors.
I lock my doors during the day when I'm not there. But I've told Dalton plenty of times that
Door's open. It's always open no matter what time of night for you, Dalton.
I leave the door unlocked.
I have a key.
There is a gun laying on the table. It is empty, and as soon as they pick that up,
It is crazy to think too, just in this table, the difference in security levels. My wife and I sit with the door locked when we're at home. My wife, but that was my wife when we were kids. If we were home, and if we were sleeping, the door was locked. But if we were home, mom and dad had such a revolving door of friends, neighbors, and kids that door had to be unlocked. Otherwise, he would have locked his kids out of the house.
Yeah, I actually we go down and we find, excuse me, haven't you been here all week? Don't you think you need to go home?
Yeah, I think that the big thing too is like my wife. She wants the technology to allow for her not to answer the door because that's like her biggest fear and anxiety is answering the door when somebody rings. Used to be when someone answered the door, it's like, oh, someone's coming over to see me. My wife's like, no, go away. She uses the video doorbell and the locked door to basically screen her callers.
well, yeah, you can even get into the psychological psychology. There we go. Psychology of that because
Can you spell that?
Yeah, it's right here.
Can we have a definition?
It's brain stuff.
Can we use it in a sentence?
The psychology of security. I don't know. That's half a sentence. Anyhow, yeah, but I mean, like, it's the same thing with the phone. Like, I remember as kids, we used to run for the phone, like, to see who, so we could answer. Who is it? Now we have caller ID, and it's like, why are you f***ing calling me? Like, text me, or email me. Don't bother me. Like, I don't want to sit on the phone with you.
But yeah, it's a matter of what. Like, I know somebody who still answers the door like a dog. Oh my God, who's here? Oh my God, yeah. I definitely don't. I don't answer my phone that way. And I don't answer my door that way. And again, as a security company, a security professional, we will tailor our product to what makes you feel safe. And that psychology, though, we will also give you opportunities to say, hey, I would put a deadbolt on this door, or I would add a camera here. We'll give you those options. But in the end, as a company that tries to provide the best service to their customers, we hope that we make you feel as safe and secure as possible. We're trying to protect and secure your world, not our own. And we'll give you our recommendations, but again, this is your world.
Well, everybody, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Don't forget to come down to 1304 West 4th Street and see downtown Dalton. You can even give them a call at 563-322-0123. Mention that at the counter to me, and I will give you a free key copy.
Also, don't forget to visit us at jjlocks.com.
Thanks for listening to Access Granted, a podcast by J&J Access and Security in association with TAG. For more information about J&J Access and Security, visit jjlocks.com.